He had a lot of energy while he was creating movies, and then there's the other Stevie Wonder, who wasn't present tonight, but Michael J. Fox nearly died on a movie set and no one talks about it. A hanging sequence in Back to the Future, the three went horribly wrong when the rope stopped his brain's blood supply. It took the director a few seconds to realize that he was dangling unconscious. However, this near-death experience paled in comparison to the covert conflict he was already engaged in. By that time, he was working 18-hour days while keeping his terrible diagnosis a secret from everyone. In many respects, the pressure almost killed him. Everything would change if the truth about those years were revealed. On June 9, 1961, Michael Andrew Fox was born in Edmonton, Alberta. His mother worked as a payroll clerk and had a secret passion for acting, while his father served as a career soldier in the Royal Canadian Corps of Signals. His early years were marked by his mother's creative spark, as well as the rigid regimen of military life. Being an army brat meant you were always on the go. Due to his father's 25-year work, the family frequently traveled, residing in locales including Chilliwack and North Bay. Michael had already lived in 5 different cities by the time he was a preteen. He learned how to adjust quickly, assess situations rapidly, and utilize comedy to gain friends by constantly being the new kid. Though it wasn't an easy life, it helped establish his subsequent reputation for having a sharp sense of humor. The family eventually made Burnaby, British Columbia, their home after his father retired in 1971. Michael's home was stable for the first time. He was about to enter the years that would shape who he was. Like many boys in Canada, Michael's first dream was to play ice hockey professionally. He gave the sport his whole attention. Stars like Bobby served as inspiration for him, and he was quick and focused, giving the game his all. However, Michael remained little as his teammates became taller and stronger. He finally stopped growing, reaching a height of only 5, which made professional competition all but impossible. It was a devastating blow that made him give up on his NHL goal and search for a different route where stature was irrelevant. That trail showed up in an unexpected location. He had been playing in garage bands and learning how to play the guitar on his own. However, he discovered drama class in high school. When he was 15 years old in 1976, a teacher saw his innate sense of humor and urged him to try out for a new sitcom on the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. A tiny actor was sought for the role of a 10-year-old child in the television series Leo and Me. His size, which put an end to his hockey dream, suddenly worked to his benefit. He got the job and his first salary as a professional. Michael had no idea how his life would change when he went into that audition at the age of 15. His youthful appearance and innate talent won over the producers, who were shocked that a teenager with virtually no professional experience could play the role. Michael portrayed Jamie, the family's younger brother, in the 2 seasons of Leo and Me. Although it was menial labor, it represented independence and the start of a legitimate career for a youngster in the late 1970s. Leo's and My achievement soon opened doors. Michael rose to prominence as one of Canada's most well-known young actors during 1978 and 1979. He portrayed a disturbed adolescent dealing with his father's alcoholism in television films like Letters from Frank. It was uncommon for someone so young that casting directors started asking him by name. He received roughly $1,500 for each episode, which is equivalent to nearly $6,000 in 1979. By the age of 17, he was being profiled as a rising star in Canadian periodicals, something that often took years to accomplish. He played a part in 1979 that altered his perspective on acting. He played Mark, a young guy who was dying of cancer, in the stage adaptation of The Shadow Box at the Phoenix Theatre in Vancouver. The play that won the Pulitzer Prize explored serious issues of death. Additionally, Michael was the youngest member of the ensemble by almost 10 years at the time, having only been 18. He only received $200 a week for the 6-week run, which included 8 shows each week. This was a significant decrease from television's salary. What he got, however, was much more significant. His emotional depth and vulnerability, which they didn't anticipate from someone his age, won him plaudits from the critics. Michael came to the realization that acting could be more than simply a career during this production. He found that it might be an art, something that required all of his guts and honesty. Michael made the most audacious decision of his young life in that same year when he was only 18. He made the decision to leave everything behind and move to Los Angeles even though he had offers in Canada, including a leading role in a new show that would have earned $2,000 per episode for 22 episodes. He had no industry ties, barely $500 in funds, and parents who were concerned that he was squandering a promising career. His representative cautioned him that unknowns, particularly those of his height, were generally not welcomed in Hollywood. Michael, however, was adamant. He survived on bologna sandwiches and generic cereal after finding a small studio apartment in West Hollywood for $200 a month. Stardom was his desire, but the city rejected him. Initially, he was able to secure several auditions. However, the phone had ceased to ring by 1980. His credit card debt reached $10,000 as a result of his mounting bills. His landlord threatened to evict him, and agents ceased to call. He once made it through a whole week on just $150, purchasing just stale bread. He had to sell his sectional couch piece by piece in order to pay the rent in 1981 since things had become so terrible. He earned $50 from the first section. He went on to sell another. He tried out for around 100 gigs at this time, but was not hired. He became despondent and considered giving up as a result of the continuous rejection. He was completely broke by the summer of 1980, which serves as a reminder that at the time, Hollywood turned away roughly 90% of newbies. Nevertheless, he was hardened by these years in ways he did not yet comprehend. On February 8, 1980, Midnight Madness, his debut feature film, was released. He portrayed a spoiled college student named Scott Larson who made an appearance for less than 5 minutes. For 2 weeks of work, he was paid $2,000, which was just enough to cover his $500 rent for a little while. The Disney comedy barely made $2.9 million, while costing $4 million to produce. He was so malnourished when filming in the summer of 1979 that he passed out one day after going days without eating anything but rice. Despite defeating 200 other applicants for the position, he received no additional offers. He paid off $1,500 in debt with the check. However, he found himself broke once more by December 1980. He subsequently said that this part was his lowest point, referring to it as his rock bottom intro. He had to change his name at about the same time. He found out another actor named Michael Fox had already claimed the name when he joined the Screen Actors Guild in 1979. He selected the letter J on November 15, 1979, after being influenced by Bonnie and Clyde star Michael J. Pard. In order to prevent headlines that would make fun of Michael, he refrained from mentioning his actual middle initial, A. Though he reduced it to Michael J. Fox, he even considered using Michael J. Fox. He scarcely had the $100 in cost for the official change. The name was initially used in the Midnight Madness credits, and he signed the documents on December 1979. Years later, he claimed that Michael Andrew Fox seemed excessively formal and snobbish, so he avoided him. He had no idea at the time that this hasty decision would turn into one of Hollywood's most well-known names. On August 20, 1982, he received the call that would transform his life. He was 21 years old, on the verge of being evicted, and in debt by $30,000. To make ends meet, he had even started selling his final possessions. He almost missed the call when agent Bob Schulenberg informed him that he had been cast as Alex P. Caton in Family Ties, and the phone bill was 2 months past due. In May 1982, he had made his first audition. He was so anxious that he almost wrecked it. He beat 500 other actors, including Matthew Broderick, when a callback on June 15 changed everything. The role, which earned $5,000 per episode, prevented him from going bankrupt by bringing in $100,000 for the first season. After its September 22, 1982 premiere, the show was drawing 30 million people every week by 1983. In a 1990 interview, He subsequently said that he was relieved that day and believed he was only a few days away from quitting up and going back to Canada. The series ran until 1989, garnered him 3 consecutive Emmys in 1986 and 1988, and served as the springboard for the 1985 film Back to the Future, which brought in $381 million worldwide. Around 3:00 p.m., that one call was placed, changed everything. His persona, Alex P. Keaton, was never intended to be the center of attention in her family. The plot of the show has been liberal ex-hippie parents and their children. However, the authors changed the focus of the show to the conservative adolescent Republican with a briefcase after just 4 episodes because viewers were obsessed with him. At first, NBC executive Brandon Tartikoff even claimed that Fox should be changed since he was too short and unfit to be on a lunchbox. Later, Fox had a personalized lunchbox manufactured with the words, "This is for you to put your crow in," addressed to Brandon. Fox was one of the most adored TV personalities in America by the time the program concluded on May 14, 1989. The accolades came soon after. From 1986 to 1988, Fox won 3 Emmys in a row, which is uncommon for someone so young. In 1989, the year Family Ties came to an end, he added a Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Comedy. During its 7-year existence, the show received 24 awards and 43 nominations. When Fox reached this level of fame, he was still in his 20s, making him one of the youngest and most successful celebrities on television. His character's timing was ideal for the 1980s. Because of his fascination with economics, Wall Street, and 3-piece suits, Alex P. Keaton became an icon of America during the Reagan period. The sitcom, which was set in Columbus, Ohio during the administration of Ronald Reagan, depicted the conflict between baby boomer parents and their conservative, aspirational kids. Years later, pundits continued to use Fox's figure as a symbol of the decade, asking, what would Alex P. Keaton do in policy debates? Eric Stoltz, who had just received acclaim for his performance in Mask, was the first actor cast as Marty McFly back in November 1984. But after more than a month of filming, director Robert Zemeckis realized that Stoltz was taking the role in a darker, more serious direction that didn't fit the playful energy he wanted. The studio had already spent a fortune on filming, and only one short shot of Stoltz remained in the final film. The scene where Marty punches Biff in 1955. On January 10, 1985, Zemeckis himself broke the bad news. Stoltz was replaced by Michael J. Fox, but he still got his full salary. Even though he thought Stoltz was a brilliant actor, Zemeckis later acknowledged that firing him was the hardest moment of his career. Fox was forced to work a demanding schedule that few people in Hollywood could handle, spending his days at Paramount filming Family Ties from mid-January to mid-March 1985. From 10:00 a.m. to 6:00 p.m., he hurried to the Universal Back to the Future set, where he worked from 6:30 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. Fridays were even more taxing. He practiced Family Ties from noon until 5:00 p.m., did 2 live tapings for the studio audience, and then resumed filming at 10:00 p.m., frequently working until dawn, with the crew occasionally having to carry the 24-year-old actor to bed. This routine continued for 2 full months until Family Ties wrapped in April 1985. And a few years later, while filming Back to the Future Part 3, Fox had a terrifying near-death experience. He was so sleep-deprived that he once searched the set for a camcorder only to discover it was a prop from the movie. He first stood on a safety box that was hidden from the camera during a hanging scene on the gallows. But the result didn't look real, so Fox insisted on trying it without the box, using his hand to prevent the rope from tightening, in an attempt to make the action seem convincing. Despite the difficulties, the trilogy became one of the most beloved franchises in film history. He miscalculated on the 3rd take, and the rope cut off the blood flow to his brain, causing him to lose consciousness and dangle helplessly for several seconds until Robert Zemeckis realized what was happening and ordered him cut down. Fox later said the director's quick action saved his life, as he could have suffered permanent brain damage or worse. Fox didn't just play Marty McFly. The 1985 film, which made about $400 million worldwide on a just $19 million budget, was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry by the U.S. Library of Congress in 2007 on the grounds that it was culturally and historically significant. The phrases, "the DeLorean," and even the number 1.21 gigawatts became part of everyday culture. Fox compared the film's timeless quality to that of The Wizard of Oz, pointing out that children never considered it an old film. Even decades later, the trilogy continues to inspire new fans with reunions and charity events that keep the spirit alive. He also demonstrated his range by portraying Marty's son and even his ancestor, Seamus. The success of the movie made Fox an immediate star, and when Teen Wolf came out just a month later, the summer of 1985 became the pivotal period of his career. He went on to have more hits, such as Doc Hollywood, Light of Day, The Secret of My Success, and Casualties of War, and he even hosted Saturday Night Live in 1991. He became one of Hollywood's most sought-after actors in the late 1980s and early 1990s. And his success continued with the sitcom Spin City, which ran from 1996 to 2001 and won him 3 Golden Globes. The trilogy had laid the groundwork for a career that would make him a global household name. Critics and viewers were taken aback by Fox's ability to transition from lighthearted comedy to serious drama. In 1989, Fox co-starred with Sean Penn in the gripping Vietnam War drama Casualties of War, which was based on a 1966 true story. Fox played Private Erickson, a soldier who witnesses his squad kidnap and attack a Vietnamese woman. The previous year, he had starred in Bright Lights Big City as a fact-checker who was on the verge of cocaine addiction, delivering a drunken monologue that Roger Ebert called the best of his career. These roles demonstrated that he was much more than just a teenage idol and that he could handle complex and deep material. His performance was so powerful that Ebert called it his best dramatic work. When he transitioned into voice acting, his career took off once more. In 1993, he provided the voice of Chance, the bulldog in Disney's Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey, which was a huge hit, and audiences enjoyed Fox's lively voice acting. This led to his 1999 role as Stuart Little, which brought in over $300 million worldwide. He voiced characters in Atlantis, The Lost Empire in 2001, demonstrating his versatility once again. And voice acting became particularly important later, as it allowed him to continue working while his health deteriorated. By this time, Fox had established himself as a true box office king, with Doc Hollywood earning $54.8 million and The Secret of My Success earning $110 million. His films made an astounding $1.82 billion, placing him 144th among all actors at the time. Between 1985 and 1991, he starred in 10 feature films and finished 7 seasons of Family Ties, a workload few could match. Even Teen Wolf, which came out around the same time as Back to the Future, made $80 million worldwide. Behind the success, however, Fox's health was slowly failing. In 1991, while filming Doc Hollywood, Michael J. Fox felt a twitch in his left pinky finger. When a physician diagnosed him with early onset Parkinson's disease at the age of 29, the news shocked him. On the outside, he continued to shine as Hollywood's vivacious star, but within 6 months, the tremor spread from his pinky to his entire hand. He later acknowledged that he was heavily dependent on alcohol during those early years, calling himself definitely an alcoholic, drinking to escape the fear of what was happening to his body. At times, he would spend hours in the bathtub with his head under the water, feeling that he needed to suffer and fall as low as possible before facing the truth. He got adept at concealing his illness from cameras and coworkers between 1991 and 1998, timing his dopamine dosage and taking tablets like Halloween Smarties to appear steady in shots, and using briefcases or coffee cups to cover his shaking hands on set. The combination of drinking, depression, and worsening symptoms brought Fox to what he called rock bottom. A year after his diagnosis in 1992, he leaned against desks and walls to anchor himself, forcing his body into positions that looked natural but caused him constant pain. No one suspected how much he was struggling. He made a life-altering decision to quit drinking with the help of his wife, Tracy Pollan, and their young children, and has been sober for over 30 years. He acknowledged that the first few days of sobriety were difficult because he was unable to hide from his fears without alcohol. Pollan supported him and forced him to face reality, and that decision was the beginning of his path to acceptance. In the years that followed, Fox started to change his career without disclosing why, moving toward television after completing movies like Doc Hollywood in 1991 and The Frighteners in 1996. In 1996, he agreed to play the lead in ABC's Spin City. He chose television because it allowed him to stay in one place rather than travel for film shoots. But by the second season, his symptoms had progressed enough that he knew he could not keep the secret much longer. Before signing, however, he told DreamWorks head Jeffrey Katzenberg and network president Robert Iger about his diagnosis, explaining that it could get very bad or maybe not, but they told him to move forward anyway. Fox, who had been hiding his Parkinson's disease for 7 years, was forced to make the announcement on December 7, 1998, when he was featured on the cover of People magazine. He was relieved and anxious at the age of 37, and his doctor warned him that he might only be functional for another 10 years. Spin City became a huge success. Todd Gold's article told his story in a way that also raised awareness for Parkinson's research. The response was immediate, with fans, celebrities, and strangers sending him messages of support. Rather than hurting his career, the news helped him connect with people and dispel the stigma associated with the disease. Even as his symptoms worsened, Fox continued to perform and serve as executive producer for the 6-season series, which won him 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards in 1999 and 2003 Golden Globe Awards in 1998. 1999 and 2001 Emmy in 2000. After having a 4-hour brain surgery to control his symptoms, he disclosed his condition to his co-stars during the 2nd season. The show flourished despite his health issues, but by January 2000 the physical strain became unbearable. According to Fox, who described feeling his face harden and his movements becoming stiff. Later episodes showed him clinging to walls or desks when he announced his departure from Spin City. On January 19, 2000, his co-stars were devastated. Barry Bostwick wept in interviews, wishing him luck in his battle with the disease. Charlie Sheen replaced him for the final 2 seasons, and Fox made 3 farewell guest appearances to provide fans with closure. When Michael J., after being diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 1991 at the age of 29, Fox had been living with the disease in secret for 9 years when he founded the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research in 2000. What began as a single man's endeavor swiftly expanded into a force that changed the way Parkinson's research was conducted globally. In contrast to most medical research groups, the foundation maintained strict control over its projects, providing funding directly to scientists it deemed to have the best chance of finding a cure. By 2006, The Guardian referred to it as the largest private funder of Parkinson's research, and the New York Times even called it the world's most credible voice on Parkinson's research. The scale of its fundraising has been astounding, and as of 2023, the foundation had raised over $2 billion for Parkinson's projects, making it the single largest nonprofit supporter of research into the disease worldwide. By 2022, the foundation was funding more Parkinson's research than the entire U.S. government, an accomplishment few would have believed possible when it all started. Community fundraising events in 2024 alone reached a record-breaking $53 million in a single year. In the Team Human Powered Potential Challenge that summer, 4 men, one of whom had Parkinson's, rode 2,800 miles from California to Hawaii over 41 days, inspiring donations totaling $41 million. bolstered by an anonymous donor committed to triple matching each and every donation, as evidenced by the Nike raffle in 2016, which raised $6.75 million from 2 auctions in Hong Kong and London, and the foundation's revenue of $316 million in 2023, which included $33 million from private donations. The world had never witnessed such a level of private support for a single disease. Through the Parkinson's Progression Markers Initiative, a project it started in 2010, researchers found a way to detect the disease with 93% accuracy using a test called the alpha-synuclein seeding amplification assay, which identifies abnormal alpha-synuclein proteins in spinal fluid. This was the biggest Parkinson's breakthrough since the discovery of levodopa in 1967, and the foundation helped deliver it in 2023. The findings, which were published in The Lancet Neurology in April 2023, immediately altered the way clinical trials were conducted, making them more efficient, less expensive, and faster. These proteins, commonly referred to as the Parkinson's protein, were found in both individuals who had already received a diagnosis and high-risk individuals who had not yet displayed symptoms. After decades of work, millions of dollars in funding, and thousands of willing volunteers, the FDA finally approved the biomarker for research and clinical trials in September 2024. Despite his worsening symptoms, Fox resumed acting in 2000, concentrating on parts that allowed him to incorporate his Parkinson's symptoms into his roles. The decision paid off with his 5th Emmy for his portrayal of Dwight in Rescue Me, 6 additional nominations for his portrayal of Lewis Canning on The Good Wife, appearances on Curb Your Enthusiasm, Scrubs, and Boston Legal, and an Emmy nomination for his production and hosting of Adventures of an Incurable Optimist, an ABC special that traveled across the United States, India, and Bhutan in 2009. Fox, who built a remarkable literary career, will return to television in 2025 with a guest appearance on Apple TV+, Shrinking, a reunion with his co-creator of Spin City, Bill Lawrence. His final major acting role was in The Good Fight in 2020 before he announced his retirement. In 2020, he released 3 additional best-selling books: Always Looking Up, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Future, and No Time Like the Future. His debut book, Lucky Man, was a #1 New York Times bestseller and established him as one of the most reputable voices in memoir writing. Although his most recent memoir was more open about the challenges that had almost caused him to give up on that outlook entirely, his audiobooks chronicled how he dealt with his illness while maintaining his optimism, and 3 of them received Grammy nominations, with Always Looking Up winning Best Spoken Word Album in 2010. He talked about the battle against Parkinson's, surgeries, falls, and the everyday struggle to just keep going. On January 4, 2025, Fox was one of just 19 individuals to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Joe Biden at the White House, joining a select group of Nobel Prize winners, leaders, and activists. By then, his foundation had raised over $1.75 billion since its inception, and the White House hailed his tenacity and optimism, calling him a fearless advocate for people with Parkinson's. In his speech, Fox expressed gratitude for the opportunity to share the recognition with patients, families, and researchers who were collaborating to end Parkinson's. Among others, Denzel Washington, Bono, and Anna Wintour attended the ceremony. Later that year, Fox shocked everyone by making a comeback to acting after a 5-year hiatus. In May 2025, he joined the cast of Shrinking for Season 3, his first television role since The Good Fight in 2020, which held special meaning for him because the show had already given Harrison Ford a character with Parkinson's disease. Knowing the difficulties he had with speech and movement, the cast and crew on set made every effort to support him. For Fox, the decision was more than just an acting decision. It was evidence that Parkinson's would not dictate his limitations. His 5th book, Future Boy, Back to the Future, and My Journey Through the Spacetime Continuum, will be released by Fox in October 2025, coinciding with the 40th anniversary of Back to the Future. The memoir, which features new interviews with cast members and offers previously untold stories, centers on the 1 year of 1985 when he starred as Marty McFly at night and filmed Family Ties during the day. He characterized that time as a time when time went rogue and took me with it. Fox, 64, has been candid about the difficulties of living with Parkinson's for over 30 years, recently acknowledging that it is becoming more difficult every day. He wrote it with Nell Farenberry, who also sits on the board of his foundation, and described it as less of a memoir and more of a reflection on identity and purpose. Despite this, Fox has maintained his sense of humor. He has been open about his frequent falls and loss of mobility, with close friend Ryan Reynolds describing him as someone who falls because he is unafraid to fly. Despite his health issues, Fox continues to be at the forefront of groundbreaking research, including a $100 million project aimed at finding biological markers for Parkinson's disease. Fox responded to his wife, Tracy Pollan's birthday message on Instagram, saying that he wasn't getting older, just more grateful.